share the screen for the agenda. So just a moment. And oops. All right, can everybody see that agenda?
Small.
Yes, sir.
Can't
All
read
right.
it.
They can adjust it on their end.
It's-
They'll be able to.
I believe you can adjust it on your end to make it larger. It's pretty large on my end.
Usually it says like fit to window.
You can, if you go up into your, you can go into your settings and fit it to your window. Hope that helps. We'll guide you through anyway. All right, Shakira.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you and welcome to our final and last official task force study committee. So actually,
You're echoing a lot, Shakira.
I don't think it's me.
Ask everybody to mute.
Oh, can everyone else mute? It may not be Shakira. If everyone else can mute, that would be awesome. All right, go ahead and give it another try.
Okay. Although I still see some people unmuted, but it sounds much better.
Yeah.
So welcome everyone to our last official study committee meeting of the year. I think we can all agree that this year has tested us in more ways than one. But to see everybody show up, on a monthly basis, we really appreciate that. The hard work and dedication, that goes to making this happen. I know it's not always easy and sometimes things come up and, we can't make all the meetings, but we are, we're looking forward to the new year and continuing with our goals to see that reduction, not just in gun violence, but hopefully, violence in general, and see an increase in a sense of, community and all of the other things that we are working on. And so, we most likely will have a shorter meeting when we go out into our working groups today. But I'm going to go ahead and pass this off to Tasha, and she will do our roll call.
Good morning, everyone. I can't see anyone. I'm having some technical difficulties. So after I do this, I'm going to log out and come back in. But I do want to go ahead and do the roll call. Shakira Williams.
Present.
Courtney Penn. Tasha Steele is present. Nicole Ross.
Here.
Antoine Calloway. Decca Knight. Rabbi Kathy Cohen.
Here.
Natasha Saunders. Jordan Bell. Aisha Goodman. Reverend David Jones. Joshua Johnson. Bishop J.L. Jackson. Stacy Shepard. Hannah Oakes. Here. David Thomas. Dr. Mark Hamill. Reverend Tim Harvey. Anthony West. Mayor Sherman Lee. And Joe Cobb.
Here.
Excellent. Thank you.
Shakira, I would recommend that we wait until our January meeting to approve our November and then December minutes.
Okay, yes, I was actually just sending you a message to let you know I don't think we'll be able to approve them this meeting. And so we will put that on hold for January. You know, typically the last meeting of the month, I would say attendance can be a little low sometimes. So we will go ahead and pass this off to the Roanoke Police Department. I believe that they have some data to update us on.
Hello, everybody. I'm Chester Smith, the Deputy Chief of Police Department. We have some data to update you all on. Alicia Morrison, our Senior Crime Analysis, will be giving you that information. Also, here, Lord Merchant's here also to give some updated information. I'm going to start off with the crime information by Alicia Morrison.
Alicia, I've made the screen multi-share, so you should be able to pull your data up.
All right, let me see if I can figure out how to do that.
If not,
For those of you that don't know me,
we have it.
my name is Alicia Morrison. I'm the Roanoke City Police Department Senior Crime Analyst. And let's see. Share screen. All right, is everyone able to see? You
Yes.
should see 3 charts.
Yes.
Okay. So the first chart that says incident where victim was hit by gunfire, that is the calendar year, so January 1st through December 31st, incidents for 2018 and 2019. So that's every firearm-related homicide, every firearm-related aggravated assault, and every firearm-related domestic aggravated assault for 2018 and 2019, full calendar years. The second table, where it says incidents where victim was hit by gunfire January 1st through December 9th, shows the same data for 2018, 2019, and 2020 year to date, meaning it goes from January 1st through December 9th. So as you can see, we had 8 homicides in 2018 that were gunfire related, 11 in 2019, and 11 so far in 2020 that have been gunfire related. Aggravated assault, year to date in 2018 was 37. In 2019, it was 25. And in 2020, we've had 44. Now, this is incidents. This is not victims. So this is individual incidents. There could be multiple victims per incident. So just keep that in mind. And then domestic aggravated assaults with firearms. We had 1 every year, 2018, 2019, and 2020 between January 1st and December 9th. And then the bottom chart, again, is January 1st through December 9th, and this compares the total number of each category compared to the gunfire related from each category. So, for example, we had a total of 11 homicides between January 1st and December 9th in 2018. 8 of those were related to gunfire. In 2019, we had a total of 12, with 11 being related to gunfire. And then so far in 2020, we have had 14 homicides, 11 of which are gunfire related, which means that 78.57% of our homicides this year have been gunfire related. For aggravated assault, In 2020, we've had 189 total aggravated assaults. 44 of those are gunfire related, meaning that 23% of our aggravated assaults year to date have been related to gunfire. And then we've had 57 domestic aggravated assaults in 2020. One of those has been a gunshot wound related incident, which is just under 2% of our total domestic aggravated assaults. And again, all of these numbers are based on the number of incidents, not the number of victims.
Charlie.
And then I will pull up the map.
Folks, I can hear someone typing pretty loudly in the background. If everyone could please mute, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
I saw this yesterday.
All right, and this is the map of the data that I just covered. So this is just a visual representation of the data that I just covered. If it is a blue point on the map, it means that there was a minimum of 2 victims in that incident, one of which was a fatal GSW homicide, and one of which was a gunshot wound in which the victim survived. If it is a black point on the map, it is a gunshot wound in which the victim survived. And if it is a red dot on the map, it is a firearm-related homicide. And that is all of the information that I have to present today. Does anyone have any questions about anything I've presented?
You can unmute to ask a question, or you can put a question in the chat box and we'll direct it. Alicia, I do have a question. It's sort of related to this, but I think it was back in October, Sergeant Johnson presented us some information on age ranges for victims and offenders. And I'm wondering, I don't expect you to have access to that today, but one of the things we're trying to do, particularly in the gang violence reduction working group, is identify key ages to direct prevention and intervention services toward. And I'm wondering if maybe at our next meeting, we could get a breakdown, or in between then get a breakdown of ages for victims and offenders. Is that something you could pull together for us?
That is something that I could pull together. I will speak to Chief Roman and see if we can go ahead and get started on that, and maybe have that ready for you by the next meeting.
Okay, our next meeting is going to be January the 8th, I believe. So that would be wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah, January the 8th. Does anyone else have any other questions before we shift over to Mr. Merchant for an update? Someone is asking, what is the clearance rate for these incidents? I'm not sure what
I
that
do
means.
not have that. Clearance rate is how many are closed by arrest, still active investigation, that sort of thing. I do not have that information available at this time, but that is also something that I could try to have together by the next meeting.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. All right, any other questions? All right, well, thank you, Alicia, for your hard work, and we appreciate you and your team. It really is so helpful to us. Mr. Merchant.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Merchant, are you, there you are. I can see you on the screen.
Yes.
Would you like to go ahead and share with us an update on how your work is going?
Yes, sir. Actually, the work is going pretty smoothly right now. We continue to engage with the community. Specifically, I've been working in the Housing Authority, talking with folks, members of that Parks and Rec. And also, I just was on a call yesterday with Deca Knight and the Trauma Informed Care Network. And they are willing to offer the Reset volunteers trauma informed care before we, as a part of what we do before we go out there as a part of our training. So I talked to the chief about that yesterday, and he thinks that's a great idea. It's going to be, it's not the intensive, it's just the soft version of the trauma informed care, what to expect when we go out and we do encounter some folks that have experienced that trauma. Also, that we had the media interviews yesterday. It was at like 5 different networks here at the police department. We've been out, but we've got some folks planned to go to Feeding Southwest, that event at the park today from 1 to 3. It's going to be at the, I keep forgetting the name of it, the Fountain Park. I want to say Preston, but it's Fountain Park. And we're going to go have some members out there to support that effort. We also had members at some of the team went out to the Housing Authority where Chief Roman presented the award to the Resident of the Month at Villages at Lincoln. And obviously, Vice Mayor, you were there. And that was something that was very, very engaging, enlightening. And the team, some of the team members really enjoyed seeing the interaction between the police and the community in that aspect. But overall, we're moving, and we're hoping to have everything done so we can I can officially say that here's the official team. Just still waiting on some paperwork approval at the police department, and then I think everything will be up and ready to roll.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Merchant? All right, back to you, Shakira.
Alrighty. So everyone should, already be working on something. I know. Oh, actually, there's a question for Mr. Merchant, and it says, what's going to be your metrics?
Meaning,
Sorry, it was in the chat box.
Elliot, would you like to unmute and be a little more specific? Oh, how do you define success?
well, success is difficult to define in this situation, I would say, but realistically speaking, we would hopefully success would look like the decline in certain criminal offenses within the city of Roanoke. We hope that we will see a reduction of the number of offenses that occur. That's the hope. A definition for success would be difficult for me to tell you right now.
Are there any, I think he may have been asking like if there were any specific goals that have been set by the police department, any specific percentage reductions or, goals of persons reached, or I guess like how you've been successful when XYZ. or you've been successful, when you see a reduction in gun violence, or you've been successful when, I think that's what he's getting at. I'm not sure.
This is Deputy Smith again. Of course, the goal, of course, is to eliminate all gun violence and violence altogether. So that's our goal, if that's what the question is.
Mr. Merchant, part
Yes,
of
sir.
part of the question here might be, I know that with this grant, the Reset grant, there are some specific goals and parameters that you're working within. Can you talk a little bit about, you described through some of your activities what some of your goals are. Can you describe a little more about what the hoped for outcome of the grant is? Because I know that in any grant, you have certain parameters that you have to work within.
Well, the hopeful outcome of the grant is to obviously see a reduction in the crime within specific areas within the city or throughout the entire city where there is a problem. And also we want to see more engagement. We're working on engaging more with the community. As I go out, it's one of the things that members of the community are longing for, a better relationship with the police department, and would like to see officers come out in the community, not only for calls, but at times when there are no calls, and just engage and get to know those residents that live in those communities. And we're hoping, and speaking with the chief, he's all on board for that. Community relations, improving community relations with all this going on within this, since the George Floyd and others. That's big on the radar here. And I'm hoping to be a part of that, engaging with the community and maybe mitigating some of those meetings and some of those events that will occur to enhance those relationships.
How responsive so far has the community been to these efforts of engagement?
When I go out, the community is very responsive. I don't see I'm not experiencing a lot of kickback from anyone. It's just, they want to be involved. They want the police to come out. They think this is a great idea, this Reset coordinator, and they like to have somebody, I guess, liaison, if that was the right word, to be a spokesperson between the community and the police. And that's what I'm feeling, that's what I'm getting. And I'll take that information back to the chief of police, and he's receptive of what I've been, telling him, and they're making provisions in order to be more visual in the community, such as as I mentioned earlier, about going over to villages at Lincoln and do the presentation, and actually sponsor the presentation for the resident of the month. And we also had some other stuff that he's looking at, we're looking at doing, partnering with the Eureka Park, for example, to get out there, and Art with a Cop. We're trying to get resurface that program, because according to the staff there, they really want the police to come over and engage with the youth. Obviously, COVID hinders some of that progression or some of that progress. So that's something that also has to be considered when making these agreements to do such activities.
Yeah, and I apologize. I had someone in my office, so I had to kind of stay off of mute. But I think Shakar was down the path that I was asking about on success. You know what I'm saying, and definitely not to sound critical, but a lot of times we utilize things as activities, and we can put a lot of bullet points of the activities that we're doing towards something. But it's more of, if we had to come in 6 months from now, how do we gauge that our activities or the goals, our objectives, whatever, has created a level of success, especially around the gun violence and everything else? How do we, I know you said it's difficult to measure, and sometimes defining those points of success is the most difficult aspect. But as we talked about, how do we craft that? How do we know? How do you measure that engagement? How do you measure that the position, the dollars, everything else is leading to an expected result? And maybe that's not a question that definitely not to be answered here this morning, but maybe something we can think about. Again, it's not about what we did today. 6 months from now, how are we going to know that everything we did was worth it?
That's a future question. And that's something that I think that we're going to have to talk about that during that time when that time occurs, because I can't, again, you cannot predict the outcome. You can only provide the services and hope for the best outcome in accord with the expectations of the position. You know, you cannot, I don't think there's a way that you can predict whether or not the outcome is going to be successful or not. We're hoping, by all means, we're hoping, but we'll do what's in accord with the position in itself. And we obviously expect a positive outcome. And I would certainly like to entertain that question again in a few months down the road, since, until when we are actually engaged and out in the community. So I think to me, that's kind of an unfair question for you to ask me today about the success of 6 months.
Oh,
I can tell you my expectations, but I can't predict I can't give you an actual, in 6 months, we're going to reduce crime in the city of Roanoke by 10%. I can't.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm muted. Sorry. So I think what he was just getting at was just wanting to understand if you guys had set any short-term goals, which 6 months would be short-term goals, and you set them now, and then in 6 months you see if you met them or not. So a lot of times, and sometimes, we don't always, we hope that we can meet certain goals. And of course, it's certainly that motivating factor is to, eventually get there. But I think he was just wanting to know if you guys had a chance to sit down and come up with just some basic goals and objectives for the short term. And so I see one more question, and we'll do that, and then we're gonna go into our breakout groups. So this question says, Mr. Merchant made mention of an official team. Who are the members of the team and how are they selected?
When you say it's just various people from the community that have volunteered so far for the process, when I say official, what I mean is that those individuals who have given me or spoken to me about being a potential volunteer, we have to gather that information in the police department. There's a process that has to occur before they can be cleared to be a volunteer. That's the process that the chief decided.
So they're not official then?
No, I would say, that's what I said. Until we become official, I can't really say, as we speak today, that those potential volunteers are officially a volunteer, if that makes sense, until we go through with the process required by the police department.
Okay, so they're perspectives?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I hope, this gives everyone a little bit more insight into what the Reset and Roanoke Police Department is working on. And of course, at our next meetings, we'll always kind of have this time for the questions. And I wish that we could have the time for the questions now. And if I knew that, people wanted to ask, many, many questions, I may have just inserted that into our time. But I don't want to take away from the working groups. I do know that Tasha had to hop off. Before she was going to hop off, she wanted to just give an update and a report on education. And so Decca, I don't know if you wanted to do that now, or did you want to do that once we come back?
I think we could do it once we come back.
Okay. All right. So as far as your working groups, I know everyone has things that they are working on. I know that we're focused on some of those immediate goals that we had set. And so with this kind of being the end of the year, I think this is a good time to self-evaluate within your groups and kind of see, how you all are doing. And maybe just kind of start looking at how you can expand upon those goals. I know a lot of challenges may have arisen with the new orders and, with COVID, I think some of us were hoping we were going to be able to do things, and now we're not. And so, you know, definitely just use that time to, you know, catch each other up on what is going on. And there's one last question, but it's not one to be answered now. It just says, is there a short-term timeline for reset? So just something to think about for the next meeting. And that was by Rabbi Kathy Cohen. And so we are going to go ahead and break out. And then when we come back, you know, as usual, we usually just give a short report, and we'll let education go first. They may have a little bit more to report on. But yes, so Joe, you are free to
Send you to your rooms.
yes, send us. We're on punishment.
Shakira, how long do we want to stay in our breakout session? So I know to do like a 5-minute warning or a 1-minute warning.
I would say maybe does 40 minutes work for everyone?
Fine.
By a nod of heads. Okay.
Well,
So we'll
10
do
after.
about yeah, about that.
Okay, or 11:15. I mean, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll be done hopefully by 11:30.
Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, so those left in the main room should be the Gang Violence Reduction Working Group and then media. If any media want to go to a different group, I can assign you out. Just unmute and let me know. Or put something in the message box. I'll assume that you all are okay staying here unless I hear differently. Okay. All right. So today I'm trying to see who our actual members are. Rabbi, I think it's you, me, and Elliot. So we can assign tasks to the rest of the working group members who aren't here today. Well, I know after our meeting last week, we set some short-term goals of, well, I guess our long-term short-term goal is by the end of January to have a comprehensive model to work from. And in our work session last week, we discussed two things. One was data regarding age groups, and the other was just talking through the comprehensive model that we had been sent, just to review that and explore it, as well as look at the 5 key components of that, or the essential components, if you will, of what a strategy would look like. I wanted to just share a couple of updates. I was on a call with the Attorney General's office this last week to begin some preliminary conversations about how we might partner with them. And some of the data and research that they shared was regarding the age range. And a lot of what they're seeing in terms of effective strategies is the 11 to 18-year-old age range. There's a lot of really strong prevention work happening in elementary age students, but they're finding that 11 to 18 is when children and youth are, the trajectory that they're taking is becoming more confirmed, if you will. And so in terms of intervention and even some ongoing prevention work, that's the range that they're seeing a lot of if we're trying to hone in. So I think there's that 11 to 17, 18 range, and then there's the 18 to 24 range, which we've also talked about. I'm still trying to collect additional data and just simply don't have that today. And one of the questions that I posed to Alicia Morrison with the iStar analysis team from the police department addresses that. And I'm hopeful that by the 8th, we'll have that additional information. Do you all have any additional insights you want to discuss regarding the research or data component of this?
Joe, there was a really good webinar through one of the links of the OJJDP program that I kind of dived into pretty deeply. Within that webinar, and then actually within the supporting documents that you sent us, it seems like there is a relatively good outline that I think is easily adaptable to the kind of position that we would look at creating to try to coordinate this particular person to hire that we're talking about. It's not so much as a job description as it is that, you know, this is the kind of person you need with these qualities and these expertises. If we're going to shift focus to the 11 to 18-year-old, which I kind of think maybe we need a bifurcated focus, one 11 to 17, one 18 to 24. And hopefully, given the fact that Roanoke is a relatively small city, we could have one person who would be able to do both of those things. I think the focus is a little bit different than what we would find in the OJJDP PD document.
And then another thing I learned about was that Newport News apparently has for a number of years now, has had a youth violence prevention coordinator. And I think it aligns with what you've just said.
Yeah, they were actually on the webinar.
Okay. And that person we may want to reach out to for one of our future meetings, just to get some insights about how their work has been going. I know that originally they secured funding for one position, and then since then that has grown, and I believe that the key staff person, the primary coordinator, has subsequently been able to hire some outreach street team, basically. Yeah. Outreach coordinator. So
Where
Kathy,
are we with the street team, Joe?
You what?
Where are we with the street team?
That's a piece that we need to look at and include. I don't know that we've made any progress on that.
Okay.
Related to our work, our specific work.
Yeah. Is that something that was under this committee, or was that under another committee?
I would have to go back and look at the original recommendations. I think there are two approaches here when we think about a street team. One is that's directly related to outreach in terms of education and prevention and conflict resolution, if you will. And I think there are pieces of that that are certainly part of our working group. The other piece is the rapid response, which is, again, more dedicated toward responding when there is an incident rather than preempting that incident. So there's a little bit of crossover but I think that's something we could work on together. And I think it's certainly something we need to bring back into our plan to develop out, because that would be a critical component of this work. Anything else in terms of the data before we get into the plan itself and looking at those key components? Well, let's dive into the comprehensive plan. You've kind of already taken us there, Kathy. Going to see if there was a way for me to bring up the 5 key points. I think I'll just bring them up on my computer. So Elliot, you mentioned these during our work session last week. And I believe these are the 5 key points. These were part of the study that Mark Farrow sent to us. And the 5 areas were community mobilization, opportunities provision, social intervention, suppression, and organizational change and development. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Okay. Would it be helpful for us to just take a look at each of these 5 and in some broad strokes, but then hone in on what would be some unique aspects of that for the Roanoke area?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So the first one is community mobilization. And the overview given is involvement of local citizens, including former gang-involved youth, community groups, agencies, and coordination of programs and staff functions within and across agencies. I think that is already a big part of what we've been working on. I think the challenge for us is just filling that out, identifying people, not only individuals, but also agencies that may not be at the table yet that we feel like we need to have at the table. So the strategy is building out that list of people, but within the scope of community mobilization, what are some areas that we feel like are gaps right now?